Welcome to Angling Wisdom. I'm your host, Patrick Edwards. It's good to have you back for another week. First, I want to start off by saying a big thank you to Kifaru. This past weekend, we did an event together up around the Du Bois area of Wyoming. We had a lot of fun. We did ice fishing, a little bit of winter camping, just had a wonderful time. Caught around 100 fish. It was a blast. And 5 different species, by the way, which was pretty cool too. So I had a great time with the Kifaru crew. So thank you to you guys. It was an awesome time. Thanks for including me. Also, thank you to PK Lures. They sponsored. Kurt sent us a bunch of lures that we gave out to folks. They really thought that was awesome. Also, thanks to Hans at High Mountain Seasonings. Also got a bunch of shaker bottles to season their fish with. So it was a really cool event. We had a lot of fun. Had a lot of people show up that just enjoy getting out on the ice and fishing. So I'll throw a couple of videos in here while I'm talking so you can kind of see what we did. And it was cold, as ice fishing always is. The wind was blowing up there, but we just had a really good time. Got to know some new friends and got to catch up with some old ones. It was a wonderful time. Big thank you to those guys. And then I have to show you this. Mr. Eric Bender from Kifaru, he actually made these pullouts for us, and these are really cool. It has a bunch of different things from the sponsors inside, so you can see PK Lures, all kinds of things in here. Wilderness Athlete was another one of the sponsors, so it's a lot of fun, and the people that showed up got to win some cool prizes. I got this bag here that I will always keep some stuff in and throw in my Kifaru pack. This is a pretty nice little pullout, but great time. Lots of good memories, and we'll do another one next year, it sounds like. So be looking for the Winter Rendezvous 2026, so next season. And then also, they're talking about doing a summer rendezvous. So I will announce this on the podcast and on the show so that you know when it is and so that you can attend. All right, so we're going to dig into this week's episode. What I wanted to do was talk to you about my top 3 places, being a multi-species angler, that I would go if I could only fish, 3 different spots. If I had to choose 3 out of the entire state of Wyoming, where would I go? Why would I choose those? And so I'm going to give you my top 3 rankings. So here we go. Welcome to the Angling Wisdom Podcast, the freshwater fishing podcast for multi-species anglers.
I've known Patrick for quite a few years, and there are a lot of people out there. It's an ego-driven industry. It's all about them. To find somebody that really wants to go find anglers for all different species, to bring them in, to give everybody a voice. This is the difference between what Patrick's doing and a lot of other shows. Is there's only a special few out there.
I have a very special guest all the way from Wapiti, Wyoming.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jim Zumbo. It's nice to actually spend 2.5 days fishing.
With a master angler like you, are you kidding me? This is a real treat.
Get ready for the culmination of angling wisdom and fun. I'm your host, Patrick Edwards, and this is the Angling Wisdom Podcast.
All right, so here are my top 3 places to fish in Wyoming. Now, this is incredibly subjective, so if you have a different 3, drop them in the comments. I would love to hear about it. But these are my top 3. And the reason they're my top 3 is I've been fishing them for 30 plus years, and I have a rubric that I kind of go to. So I look at how many different kinds of species there are, what are the likelihood of catching those species, can I camp there, is there a nice boat ramp, all those kind of things, and just kind of make my decisions based on that. So when you hear them and you say, well, you forgot such and such reservoir, or you forgot such and such lake, it's probably that I didn't forget about it. It's just I put some others ahead of it for other various reasons, and that is okay. It is perfectly fine to have your own opinion and come up with your own list. So again, I would love to hear that. So if you want to drop it in the comments, you're welcome to do that.
Fellow anglers, it's time to up your game with PK Lures, crafted to help you catch the fish of your dreams. Whether it's the classic PK spoon, the flutterfish, or the reliable PK Ridgeline crankbait, PK Lures has the perfect lure for any fishing scenario. No matter if you're fishing on the ice or in open water, PK Lures has a wide range of lure options to help you catch walleye, trout, panfish, and more. These aren't just lures, they're proven performers. Designed by master angler Pat O'Grady and tested by some of the best anglers in the world, they are trusted for results. From the hard water to open lakes and rivers, PK Lures delivers. Find your perfect lure today at pklure.com and use the code WISDOM for 20% off of your order.
So let's start with number 3. If you're going to come to the state of Wyoming and you want to catch a bunch of fish at a fishery that's a multi-species fishery, I would tell you to go to Flaming Gorge. Flaming Gorge is an amazing fishery. And man, it was really hard putting in number 3 because it is a fantastic fishery. There are so many different fish to catch. I just kind of roughed out some of it here, but here's some of them. So most people go there for the lake trout. I mean, lake trout are well known and they have humongous lake trout besides just having lake trout. The lake trout are a draw. Kokanee salmon, a lot of people will fish there because of the great kokanee fishery that they have. They stock it with tons of kokanee. They get huge for kokanee, landlocked sockeyes. And so a lot of people will go down and target specifically the kokanee salmon. Another thing that people used to target a lot, there's still some giants in there, but there's not as many of them, is the smallmouth bass. The smallmouth bass population has kind of crashed, and we'll talk about why here in a second. But the smallmouth bass get huge in there for, this part of the country. The state record's, I believe, around 6 pounds, it's 5 or 6 pounds. But I've seen guys catch 19 and 20 inch smallmouths out there. I've caught them up to 17, 18 inches. The smallmouth are a lot of fun. So if you can find them, there aren't as many of them, but if you can find them, you can have a lot of fun catching smallmouth. The next one that I'm going to mention is burbot. And that's the reason, at least according to the Game and Fish, I don't know all the science behind it, but that's why there's not as many smallmouth in there, is because of the burbot population. Burbot actually don't belong in Flaming Gorge or in that Green River drainage system. However, they're in there. And once they're in there, you're not going to get rid of them. They have a catch and kill policy for burbot on Flaming Gorge, but there's way too many. That's never going to get rid of them. It'll just help manage them to some degree. But there's a ton of burbot in there, and if you've never eaten burbot, it is one of the best eating fish out there. Go down to the gorge and catch a whole bunch of them and take them home and eat them because they're delicious. And they can be caught, especially in the cold water periods, because that's when they're most active. So go down there, ice fish for them, fish out of a boat in the cold water, like in the fall, spring, winter. You can catch quite a few of those. Another draw too is there's cutthroat trout and rainbow trout. You can catch those trolling, you can catch those cast along the shorelines, and they grow to a pretty good size. They're not huge, but there's some pretty good ones. And back in the day, another species that people used to go to Flaming Gorge for a lot was the brown trout, because there were trophy brown trout growing in Flaming Gorge. Now, again, there's still some in there, but they're just not as plentiful as they used to be. But there are a ton of great opportunities for those fish in particular. And besides that, there's some pretty big channel catfish. In fact, they have the state record for the channel cat. So if you're fishing around where the river comes into the reservoir, that's an opportunity to catch some channel cats. And then, of course, if you want to catch rough fish, the carp are huge in Flaming Gorge. I remember a couple of different times fishing there when I was in high school. And we'd be working shorelines looking for smallmouth bass, and you would see this big old carp cruising along the bank. And I mean, they are absolutely giant. Lots of opportunities. One thing that I will say is that the boat ramps there are nice. They're heavily used, but they're nice. So if you want to launch a boat there, you can certainly do that. There isn't a ton of camping, but there are some camping opportunities on the Wyoming side. I think there's a little bit more probably on the Utah side. But if you want to stay on the Wyoming side, you can stay at Buckboard Marina. I highly recommend that. They've got an awesome boat ramp, fish cleaning station, places to set up your camper and stay. So go check that out. Plus, the store has a lot to offer. So let's say you show up and you don't have that lure that's really hot for lake trout. There's a good chance Buckboard Marina will have it for you. And if you don't know the lake and you show up and you're like, I really need a guide, or if you're planning your trip, because this is when you should really do this. If you need a guide, contact Shane Dubois from Recon Angling. He can help get you set up, help you figure out what you need, and help you be successful. So that's Flaming Gorge. That would be number 3 for me. And I know it pains me to even say that it's number 3, but It is. It's a fantastic fishery, though. And if you've never fished there, it is one of the most picturesque and beautiful places, too. So if you're into photography, you love sunset photos, anything like that, go check out the Firehole region in Flaming Gorge, and the rest of the reservoir is just absolutely gorgeous.
For me, fishing isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. And every angler deserves a rod as unique as their journey. That's where TB Custom Rods comes in. Handcrafted custom fishing rods built to your exact specifications. Perfectly balanced and tailored to your style. Work with Trapper and choose your design, select your components, and feel the difference of a rod made just for you. Visit tbcustomrods.com to get started on your custom rod today.
All right, moving on to number 2, and I know I'm going to catch some hate for this for it being number 2, but I don't care because that's where I've got it listed, is my home body of water, which is Boysen Reservoir. Boysen is an amazing fishery. I will just say it has a ton of different species in it. And not only that, there's a really good chance you're going to catch fish. So I would say the number one reason that people come to Boysen is the walleye fishery. It has the state record for walleye, just over 17 pounds. And there's a lot of walleye in there. Not as many as in some previous years, but there's a really good year class coming up. So the walleye fishing at Boysen is going to be really awesome. But besides walleye, you might see people coming to Boysen for yellow perch. They get jumbos up to 15 inches. The state record perch was there. Crappie up to 15 inches. Again, they held the state record for the black crappie. There's burbot, which I just talked about, which do belong there. And there's a healthy population of those. So if you like eating burbot. Sauger, the walleye's little cousin. I just absolutely love sauger. And if you're on a quest to try to catch a master angler sauger, Boysen's going to be one of your best bets as far as a place that you can go and try to get that done. There's several other reservoirs and rivers and places that you could go, but Boysen is a good spot. That's where I got mine. Rainbow trout there are just everywhere and big. Boysen is one of the best places in the state of Wyoming to catch a master angler qualifying rainbow trout. There are lots and lots and lots of 20-inch rainbow trout swimming around in Boysen. So it's a pretty easy one to get. And like I said, they're just everywhere and they're fat. They're footballs. They're absolutely huge and they are very, very healthy. So it's a good place to do that. Another species you can catch is the brown trout. There are tons of browns in there and they're growing to pretty good sizes as well. And I think that's because there's a pretty good amount of forage in the reservoir for them. So when you're fishing and you're catching rainbows, you're probably going to catch a brown trout or two as well. Another thing that they started introducing about 5-6 years ago is Kokanee salmon. So there are kokanee in there. The walleye put a pretty good hurt on that population, but there are kokanee in there, so kokanee could be caught. Channel cats. There's some really big channel cats in Boysen as well. So if you want to go catch channel cats or bullheads, catfish and bullheads, they've got them both. If you want to fish some meat or stink bait on the bottom, you can definitely do that and catch catfish and bullheads in there. They also have humongous carp and lots of them. So if you're a bow fisherman, it's a perfect place to come and shoot some carp. Or if you like to do like I do and catch them on rod and reel, you can do them that way. There's also really nice largemouth bass. In fact, that bass right up there is from Boysen Reservoir. It was almost 7 pounds. There are some really, really nice largemouth. They're hard to find, but they are in there. And then they also have some pretty good sized bluegill. There are bluegill in various places on the reservoir. Lots and lots of options there for different species. And so it doesn't really matter what kind of fisherman you are as far as freshwater angling. There's something for you. You can find just about anything in there. And I forgot to mention another rough fish that's in there. So there's lots of different suckers too. There's a couple of different species. So lots of options, lots of fish to catch. Boysen is a must. The other nice thing about Boysen is it's run by Wyoming State Parks. My friend John Bass is the superintendent there. They have tons of places for you to camp and recreate. If you want, there's some cabins that you can rent out. There's also really good boat ramps around the lake, all around. There's several of them. There's really good campsites with hookups. There's fish cleaning stations. it's just a fantastic place to take your family and go fishing. So if you're going to invest some money, take your family and go somewhere, it's a high probability you're going to catch fish, and it's a lot of fun. So Boysen Reservoir is my number 2 on the list.
Whether you're deep in the backcountry or gearing up for your next hunt, Kifaru has your back, quite literally. As someone who has broken their back twice, I can speak to the unparalleled performance of the Kifaru packs and frames. From their industry-leading backpacks built for extreme durability to ultralight shelters that withstand the punishing elements, Kifaru gear is engineered for those who demand the best. Customizable, rugged, and made right here in the USA, Kifaru is trusted by hunters, hikers, and explorers who refuse to compromise. Visit Kifaru.net and discover why Kifaru is the ultimate name in outdoor adventure.
And number 1 probably won't surprise a lot of you if you've been following me for any amount of time, but man, the last couple of years I've spent a lot of time at Keyhole Reservoir, and it is number 1 on my list. The reason it's number 1, I think, is partially a bias that I have. One, that I like the warmer water species a little bit more, and I live in Wyoming, and so one of the only places I can go get those fish and get like a huge amount of them, different species wise, is up at Keyhole. For me, when I go to Keyhole, I go for northern pike. It's the only fishery in the state of Wyoming with northerns, and there's some really nice sized northerns in there. Northern pike is a big draw for me, but it also has a really, really healthy population of walleye, and I would say that's probably the main reason people go there, is that the walleye fishery is absolutely fantastic. They have lots of big fat walleye in that reservoir. I caught some absolute toads this year and last year. It's a great place to go if you're a walleye angler. If you're a serious walleye angler, you've got weeds, you've got rock, you've got deep structure, you've got shallow structure, you've got a little bit of everything, and the fish are just scattered all over the place. So if you're a walleye angler, it's kind of like a perfect place for you to go fish. And also, because of all those different structural elements, the black and white crappie are phenomenal in there. There's so many crappie. And I don't know about you, but I love to eat crappie. And in Wyoming, the limit's 50. So I can go out and catch 20 crappie and not feel too bad at Keyhole, because I know there's lots and lots of them. And man, that is just makes an amazing, fish taco or a fish sandwich, or just fried fish. So the crappie population there is super strong. There's lots of them. So go up there and try it. Also, yellow perch. There's some nice yellow perch in there. There's quite a few of those. There's some green sunfish. They've got kind of a lot of different panfish that you can go after. But besides that, they have a really good smallmouth fishery as well. And I'm a sucker for smallmouth bass. I think smallmouth are so much fun to catch. They fight like crazy. They just look super cool. And as far as Wyoming smallmouth fisheries go, it's as good as you're going to get in the state, especially for numbers. You can catch quite a few out of there, and you can catch some pretty good sized ones. So smallmouth bass is a great fish to chase at Keyhole. Channel catfish too. There's some pretty good sized channel cat in there. So if you are a catfish fisherman and that's what you like to do, there's plenty of places on the reservoir that you can do that, as well as drum. So freshwater drum, that's where the state record is for that. They get big. And so there's some big freshwater drum in there. I think freshwater drum smoked is amazing to eat. If you haven't tried that, brine some and smoke some, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because they have a higher oil content. They are delicious smoked. So drum. And then, like I talked about before with carp, there's tons of carp. So if you like to shoot carp, if you like to catch them on rod and reel, there's lots of them in Keyhole Reservoir. Plenty of opportunities for you to catch fish at my number 1 place in Wyoming for a multi-species angler, which is Keyhole. So that's the show. Those are my top 3. I would love to hear in the comments, what are your top 3? So please drop those in there, and hopefully you'll go out and check out some of these fisheries. Wyoming has a lot of great places that you can go fish, but those are my top 3, and I'll see you next time.
Angling Wisdom has been brought to you by TB Custom Rods, Kifaru, and PK Lures. Don't forget to subscribe to Angling Wisdom on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Also, go to anglingwisdom.com for more fishing content. Until next time, I'll see you out on the water.